Sweet! Before I get started on the stuff that I've done on my Project Cafe Racer, I want to talk about iconic, the word iconic. Today's vocabulary word, iconic. If you think of iconic vehicles, you'd think of the Model T, Volkswagen Beetle, Triumph Bonneville, Norton Commando. Vehicles that have made a big impression in the world. Some of them because of styling and just class, and others because of the production run, the numbers built, the ruggedness. How many millions were produced over a large period of time? I didn't realize how iconic this modest little motorcycle was before I got started on my project. It was just a little shiny red motorcycle that's been sitting in the garage for 15, 20 years. I don't know, a long time. When I started like reinvigorating, getting this thing in running condition, it's not in running condition yet, and I'll explain why, what else I have to do to it. I discovered that this bike, which the CB125, built for the North American market between 1971 and I believe 1986, and now has returned, the CB125, in a much different form, a lot sportier, a modern looking motorcycle, not like this, which looks like a real motorcycle. I'm somewhat biased because it looks like it was pounded out of steel and there's chrome on it. This led Honda, this rugged, reliable, fuel-efficient vehicle, led Honda, I believe in 1976, to come up with this beastie, this wee beastie, by the name, the moniker of CG125. Now what Honda wanted to do was introduce a fuel-efficient, rugged as a hammer motorcycle to developing countries. And what they wound up doing, they didn't change really the chassis, the frame, the suspension, the tank, the seat, anything like that. What they wound up doing was taking this overhead cam engine, which has a weak spot, the cam bearings, which you really need to maintain a regimen of changing oil and having good oil in the engine, because these bearings in the overhead cam are the wearing point. What they did is they took this beautiful little engine and wound up replacing the overhead cam with push rods. In that way, you can skip oil changes, you can use crummy oil, and the engine will survive. They also took the chain and enclosed it in an oil bath. And so it's a foolproof little motorcycle that survived dirt roads, poor maintenance schedule, bad oil, and just kept running and running and running. The CG125, I get confused on the letters. The CG125 has been produced, notice it's like one of those grave markers that just has the born date. It still lives. The CG125 has been produced since 1976, and I have no idea how many have been built. 10 million, 20 million, distributed throughout the world in rough conditions. They survive. They are bulletproof. They are rugged. They are as strong as a hammer. Over 80 miles to the gallon. Cheap to run. The parts are easy to find and extremely cheap, cost effective, because there's so many built. If you have this 1982 CB, which is basically a CG except the engine changes in the drivetrain, you can buy parts for it cheap, and they're interchangeable throughout a huge number of years. The Model T of motorcycles. Okay, now what I have been doing is the basic three-part: changing the styling, changing the seating position, blah, blah, blah. I bought new handlebars for it. You can see they're drop, Cafe Racer, and Cafe Racers mean that the people raced from cafe to cafe back in England. For those Brits out there, is the Ace Cafe still in existence? Because that was a gathering spot for people in their BSAs and Triumphs and Matchlesses. Handlebars, seat, which is one of those cool brat style, and it's for a CG. I'm assuming it's gonna fit. It's just gonna bolt on. because when I looked at it, I typed in eBay, did a search, CB 125S, this is the 125S, cafe racing seat, and you look, compatible models, and it goes for 20 years, and it's between the CB and the CG. And so hopefully I can just bolt that cool, it's brown, looks like brown leather, lower with that kick, a brat style, a racing style seat. Okay, that didn't total anywhere near $100 for the handlebars and the seats. My old Cayenne carburetor shot. I'm not going to bother rebuilding it. The corrosion is bad. It's just really crummy. So I went to eBay and accidentally bought 2 carburetors. I used the wrong credit card, bought a carburetor, and it's like, ooh. And then bought one with my debit card, and I looked, wow, I just bought 2 brand new Mikuni carburetors that you just bolt on here. $36 a piece, no big deal. I'm not going to return them. I'll have a spare carburetor. I can fiddle around with it. So if I just bought 1 carburetor, handlebars, seat, carburetor, $100. Now the big news is, I just cleaned this tank. It had some corrosion in it, and how I handled it, and it's in very nice shape, I bought some cleaning quality vinegar, 6%, soaked it, just filled the tank with this vinegar for 3 days, let it sit, and then rinsed the heck out of it. Rinsed it with hose water. This is important, the water. Hose water. A lot of times I put some water in it, filled it, and then took a box of baking soda to neutralize the acid, rinsed for a long time, drained it, and then followed it up with distilled water rinse. Because distilled water doesn't have the impurities in the junk, so it won't promote rusting as much as hose water. Mix some isopropyl alcohol in it, swish, 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 emptied it. Then the tricky part is I just took my vacuum cleaner, put the crevice tool under, jammed it in the gas tank, and just ran it for a couple hours until it completely dried it out. Even though I was blowing and not sucking air in there, it still dried it out. Once the tank was dry, I followed it up. I put one of those little things, 1 bottle to 1 gallon premix oil, like for chainsaws. Filled it in the tank, put a little bit of gas in there just so it would thin it out so I could slosh it around there. So I've got a nice oily interior in here, so I'm not going to get rust. It's ready. Before I run it, I'm just going to empty it out. There's going to be a little bit of oil in there. It'll smoke for the first tank or 2, whatever. I would rather have it smoking a little bit than rusting. So the tank has been prepared lovingly. I just wound up taking the chain off, scrubbing it, soaking and scrubbing, and then lubed it. So the chain is in good shape. Everything is in good shape. The good news is I have a strong spark. I don't need to mess with the points. I don't need to like hit them with emery cloth or anything to clean them up. It's good to go. The stator works, obviously. The points are good. It never charged the battery, never since I owned it. So I think the voltage regulator is shot. I don't think it's the stator. It's either the stator or the voltage regulator. The nice thing about these things, these rugged little monsters, is they can start with a dead battery. Doesn't matter because it's got a kickstart. Good compression. It actually doesn't have any miles on it. It has 2,257 actual miles on it, so you know it's in good shape. I will change the oil before I start it. I'll wind up putting the carburetor in there. Hopefully the jetting will be correct. It's, you know, luck of the draw. If not, it's easy to get parts for it or adjust the main jet, whatever. And that is that. I am impatiently waiting for the UPS or FedEx person to get here because the seat, they said will be delivered between yesterday and next Thursday. So whatever, I'm sure it's coming from China. But such is life. The front forks are in good condition. There's rebound, there's oil. I'll change the oil in them. I may, because of the forward seating position, there's more weight on it, you know, give it a little preload by simply putting a spacer at the top just to jimmy the fork, the springs down. But maybe not. It seems to be okay. I don't think I'm going to just put heavier fork oil in it. All that does is dampening. It doesn't help with preload. What I want is stiff shocks. This is on the softest position. I'll just put them on the firmest, and then I probably will put a spacer in there to give it more preload. Change the fork oil. It's looking good. Need to replace the spark plug boot. It had a cracked edge on it. But that is not a highly complex type of thing. Now, I fully admit that this is not a restoration like you would see on Musty. Musty 1, I think. The channel is great. He takes these old Hondas and rebuilds them. I don't need to dig into the cases at all because the tranny is in beautiful condition. Kicks over as smooth as it ever did. No sticking. Spark. So all I need aside from spark is fuel and air. The air cleaner's in good condition. There were no mice living in there. I just vacuumed it out a little bit. The elements, beautiful condition. I don't have the standard like paper type of filter. When I had it, I took the old filter off and just used foam filter material, wrapped it around there, secured it with some copper wire, and so we're good to go. Once that carburetor is on there, hopefully the pattern will be the same between the Cayenne and the Cayenne. It's a hot, spicy carburetor. Actually, it's Keihin, however it's spelled. Hopefully the bolt pattern will be the same between the Mikuni and the Cayenne. It listed that it fits this model, so we should be good to go. It probably isn't going to be a knockoff carburetor. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I'll check to see if the stampings, the serial numbers are on there. And away we go. Will I put fork boots on it? I don't know. Not enough clearance between the fender and that, and I don't feel like bending the fender. Looks good as the way it is. Such is life. Oh, last bit. You know, I toyed around with thinking about repainting it, but no. I know that if I repainted this, because the tank is in such beautiful condition, the paint on the fender is in good condition. I'm not going to bob the fender. I am going to take this ugly standard Japanese taillight off there and put a bullet shaped taillight on there. I just don't like these things. They're very functional. They're big. They're safe, but they're ugly. I shall shut up now. Give you a moment to take in the splendor that is this 1982 Honda CB125S. Beautiful tank shape. It reminds me of my old Honda CB400F. CB400 4-cylinder. A jewel of a motorcycle, only built for 2 years. Because it was such an expensive motorcycle to build, Honda wasn't making any money off of them. But it was a nice bike. Man, I talk fast. Nice. I did cut the balls off the ends of the levers. They were just dopey looking. Unnecessary. Style counts. Beauty is, or fashion is pain. These are cool handlebars.